In a bustling town filled with endless chatter and busy streets, there lived a boy named Arman. Arman was kind-hearted, intelligent, and full of ideas. But when it came to speaking in front of others, his voice shrank to a whisper. Every time he entered a room full of people, fear gripped his chest. His hands would tremble. His mind raced, thinking, "What if I say something wrong? What if they laugh at me?" So he stayed silent, nodding when spoken to, smiling politely, but never truly being seen. At school, he avoided raising his hand, even when he knew the answers. At gatherings, he lingered at the edges, hoping to disappear. Inside, he longed to connect, to speak freely, but fear built invisible walls around him. One evening, after another party where he barely said a word, Arman sat alone on a bench at the town square, head bowed, wondering if he would ever break free from the prison he had built around himself. As the lamps flickered to life around him, a tall man in a weathered coat sat down beside him. He had the air of someone who had seen many winters, many roads. Without looking at Arman, he said quietly, "You seem to carry a heavy silence." Startled but curious, Arman nodded. The man smiled slightly and continued, "When I was your age, I carried the same burden. Always worrying about what others thought, always second-guessing every word." Arman turned to him, surprised. "But you speak so easily." The man chuckled. "That wasn't always the case. Let me tell you a story," he said, leaning back against the bench. "A story about a sparrow and a peacock." Arman listened closely, sensing that this would not be an ordinary tale. "In a great forest," the man began, "there lived a sparrow who admired the peacock from afar. The peacock, with his dazzling feathers, strutted through the clearings, admired by all. The sparrow, plain and small, believed he had nothing worth showing. One day there was a great festival where all the birds gathered. The sparrow, too shy to speak, stayed hidden among the trees. But then a terrible storm swept through the forest, scattering the birds. When it passed, the peacock's heavy feathers were soaked and weighed him down. He couldn't fly. But the sparrow, light and swift, soared through the broken branches, guiding the other birds to safety. That day, the forest realized something important. Beauty may draw the eye, but true value lies in action, in heart, in courage. The man paused, letting the story settle in. "You see," he said to Arman, "confidence isn't about dazzling people. It's about showing up with what you have, no matter how small you think it is. It's about believing that your voice matters." Arman sat still, absorbing the weight of the story. He had spent so long wishing he were different, more interesting, more impressive, that he never noticed what he already carried inside. "But how do I start?" Arman asked, his voice small. The man smiled warmly. "Start by being present. Listen fully when someone speaks. Share a thought, even a simple one. Confidence is not a roar. It's a seed planted in small, brave acts." He reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny, carved wooden sparrow. It was rough but carefully made, full of character. He placed it in Arman's hand. "Carry this with you," he said. "Let it remind you that even the smallest bird has the sky." Arman closed his hand around the sparrow. For the first time, he felt a shift inside him. Not a sudden surge of bravery, but a quiet spark of belief. The next day at school, Arman decided to take a small step. When the teacher asked a question, his hand rose, hesitant, trembling, but rising nonetheless. His answer wasn't perfect, his voice cracked, but he spoke, and something miraculous happened. The world didn't end. No one laughed. In fact, a few classmates smiled encouragingly. Encouraged, Arman tried again at lunch, joining a conversation about books. He stumbled over his words but laughed it off. With each small act, his confidence grew, not as a sudden explosion, but as a steady fire warming him from within. He learned that people weren't looking for perfection. They were looking for connection. They appreciated honesty more than polish, sincerity more than showmanship. Bit by bit, the walls he had built around himself began to crumble. Years later, Arman became known not as the loudest or most dazzling person in a room, but as someone you felt at ease with. Someone whose quiet strength drew people in. He kept the little wooden sparrow on his desk, a reminder that bravery often begins with small, uncertain steps. A reminder that confidence is built not by pretending to be something you're not, but by honoring who you already are. And whenever a shy young soul came to him, lost for words, he would smile and say, "The sky is vast enough for even the smallest wings." Arman had learned that confidence isn't born overnight. It is built, breath by breath, word by word, until one day you look back and realize you are flying. If Arman's journey helped you believe that confidence grows from small, brave steps, subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that will help you find your voice, spread your wings, and soar.